Most people hit 40 and believe their best years are behind them, thinking they've passed their prime. But Carl Jung, one of the greatest minds of psychology, says the opposite. He says that's when life really begins. That's right. According to Jung, the first 40 years are just preparation, a phase of research, and after that, the real work of living starts. If you're in your 40s or beyond, you've probably heard the term midlife crisis. It's become this cliché of a time when people make rash decisions like buying a sports car, quitting their job, or facing existential dread. We're told it's a chaotic time, a sign that something has gone terribly wrong. But what if I told you that midlife isn't a crisis at all? What if it's the start of your greatest transformation, your opportunity for personal awakening? What if this stage of life is not an end, but a new beginning? That's exactly what Carl Jung suggested in his work. In just a moment, I'll show you how this shift from crisis to awakening is exactly what you need to live authentically and on your own terms. But first, let's understand why Jung called the first 40 years research, a preparation phase. It's all about laying the groundwork for something deeper, something far more meaningful. Most of us spend the first few decades of our lives chasing after things: success, approval, material possessions, and often the idea of who we should be rather than who we truly are. The pressure to conform to societal expectations is immense, and many of us end up living lives that are shaped by the desires and definitions of others. It's not until later that we begin to question, is this it? Is this the life I truly want to lead? That's where Carl Jung's philosophy comes into play. He suggested that the first 40 years of life are like a long research period, a time when we're experimenting, learning, and trying to figure out the world around us. The experiences we gathered during these years are important, but they're not the final product. They're just pieces to the puzzle that we don't yet understand. We're building careers, relationships, families, pursuing achievements that society values. But deep inside, many of us are still searching for that elusive sense of fulfillment. As we approach midlife, things begin to change. The external markers of success, career titles, financial milestones, social approval, start to lose their luster. We may have achieved everything we thought we wanted, but something feels missing. For many, it's a feeling of emptiness, a realization that the life we've been living doesn't align with our deepest desires or sense of purpose. This is the moment when Jung's idea of individuation begins to resonate. Individuation, according to Jung, is the process of becoming whole, of integrating all the parts of ourselves, both the ones we show the world and the hidden, shadowy aspects we've kept locked away. It's about shedding the persona we've built to fit in and finally living authentically. This isn't about rejecting the roles we've played, like parent, professional, partner, but about realizing that those roles are only one part of who we are. As we approach midlife, the cracks in our persona begin to show, and we start to question whether the person we've become is truly the person we want to be. It's not a crisis, it's an awakening. The discomfort we feel is not a sign that something's gone wrong, but rather that we're being called to step into a deeper understanding of ourselves. And while it might feel unsettling at first, this process of introspection is the beginning of the most powerful transformation we can experience. We begin to ask ourselves hard questions like, what truly matters to me? What do I want to leave behind? What kind of life do I want to create for myself from here on out? These are the questions that guide us toward a new sense of purpose. No longer concerned with achieving external validation, we start to look inward for answers. This phase of life is about finding meaning and living in alignment with our true selves, not according to the script that was handed to us by society, family, or peers. It's important to remember that this shift doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process, often beginning with small, quiet moments of reflection, perhaps triggered by a milestone, a significant birthday, or a quiet evening alone. But once we start asking these questions, they don't go away. They become louder, demanding answers. And those answers require us to confront parts of ourselves that we've long ignored, parts that might be uncomfortable or painful to acknowledge. But this is exactly where the growth happens. By facing the parts of ourselves that we've hidden away, the fears, insecurities, regrets, and unfulfilled desires, we can begin the process of healing and self-acceptance. Jung called this aspect of self-awareness the shadow, and facing it is an essential part of becoming whole. The shadow is not the enemy. It's a necessary part of the journey toward self-actualization. Without it, we would never understand the full depth of who we are. This is why midlife, rather than being a time of crisis, is actually an incredible opportunity for transformation. When we understand that this phase of life is about shedding old identities and becoming the person we were always meant to be, the discomfort starts to feel like a release, not a burden. This shift in perspective allows us to embrace the changes with open arms and trust that they are guiding us toward a more authentic life. We also begin to shift our priorities. In youth, we chase after ambition, competition, and material success. But as we enter midlife, those pursuits lose their appeal. Instead, we start to seek authenticity, connection, and meaning. Our values shift from external recognition to internal fulfillment. Life becomes less about doing and more about being. It's no longer about proving our worth to others, but about living according to our own principles and desires. Neuroscience even supports this shift. Studies show that as we age, our brains undergo changes that make us better at regulating emotions and approaching life's challenges with a sense of calm and perspective. We stop living on autopilot and begin making decisions based on our core values, not on fear or external pressure. Emotional maturity, gained through life experiences, allows us to embrace change and let go of outdated goals, clearing the path for a life that feels true to who we are. It's important to remember that while midlife can be a time of uncertainty and upheaval, it is also a time of incredible personal growth. Letting go of old identities, careers, or relationships can feel like a loss, but it's also a necessary step toward living authentically. It's the unraveling of the version of ourselves that we thought we were supposed to be, and the discovery of the person we were always meant to become. As Brené Brown puts it, a midlife crisis is often an unraveling, a time when we're forced to let go of the old and make room for the new. This process can be messy and uncomfortable, but it's essential for growth. It's a time to embrace change, confront our fears, and reclaim our sense of purpose. This is not an easy journey, but it is one that leads to greater happiness and fulfillment. Viktor Frankl, a Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, argued that the primary drive in human life is the search for meaning. At midlife, this drive becomes stronger, and we no longer settle for living according to someone else's expectations. We want our lives to be significant, even if that means it looks different from what we once imagined. At this stage, many of us are faced with confronting the fears that have held us back. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. These fears can paralyze us, but midlife offers an opportunity to face them head-on. It's a chance to rewrite the story of our lives, to let go of what no longer serves us, and to embrace what truly matters. Maslow's concept of self-actualization speaks to this as well. As we move through midlife, the drive to fulfill our potential becomes more urgent, but it's no longer about external accomplishments. It's about realizing our full potential as human beings, living a life that feels authentic and meaningful. Self-actualization is about living in alignment with our true self, something that becomes even more accessible as we enter midlife. For many, this transformation leads to higher life satisfaction. Studies show that people in their 40s, 50s, and beyond often report feeling more connected to themselves and others, less concerned with what others think, and more focused on what brings them joy and purpose. This is the gift of midlife, the freedom to live on our terms. So, if you're approaching midlife or already there, don't see it as a crisis. Instead, see it as an opportunity. The best years of your life may still be ahead of you, if you're willing to embrace this transformative process of becoming the person you were always meant to be.